on Australia's channel. This is Media Week.
Hello and welcome to the program this week. Ahead, Seven gets the rights to the next two Summer Olympics in lacklustre bidding, the latest radio ratings as Metro ad revenue closes in on $700 million, and for some insights into the outlook for content makers, we'll be joined by Fremantle's media boss Ian Hogg. But first, the Australian entertainment and media market is forecast to grow by 3.4% annually to nearly $40 billion by 2018. That's the finding of the annual PwC Outlook report, which has been released this week, also predicting ad spending will grow about 3% a year to $14.4 billion by 2018. So much more to discuss, though, with Megan Brownlow. She's editor of PwC's Australian Entertainment and Media Outlook. She's with us in studio today, and of course our co-host on Media Week, James Manning, as well, editor and publisher of Media Week. Thanks to both of you, as always, James, and Megan, welcome to you. Yeah, there's so much we could get through in this Outlook report that you've offered. One of the interesting findings, though, seems to be around the movement of ad spend into funding channels that advertisers actually own themselves. What are the kinds of things we're talking about here?
So branded content sometimes, but sitting in channels like the brand's own corporate websites. An example, great example, I think, is ANZ's Blue Notes, where they actually hired journalists to create engaging content for their, not just their own customers, but anyone who wants to visit that website. But we've been following the ad market for many years, and it's been interesting to see a sort of sluggishness that previously we could have explained with a softening economy, low consumer confidence. But actually, what we did this year, which was new, was ask marketers, what are you doing with your ad budgets? And we know that advertising has traditionally funded media, but what they told us was, actually, we're taking money out of paid media channels, external channels, and putting it into our own channels. That's a big structural shift.
And things like what is social media good examples of that too? Your Twitter feed, your Facebook page, all that stuff, YouTube channel even, yeah?
Yes, and building content assets that sit across those sort of aggregated channels like YouTube, but a lot of social media is driving this too, and just looking for content on their own sites is a really important way to engage consumers who are stopping really taking as much notice of advertising as they once did.
There's some opportunity there for existing media players too to provide, you know, funded content straight to the advertiser, if you like.
Big opportunities, because the clever brands recognise this as a competency they don't necessarily have, and therefore they need to outsource this skill. And there's some good examples there. In a way, we've always had custom publishing. It's a modern extension of custom publishing, where we're making magazines for department stores or whoever. But, you know, Nova Entertainment doing the Coles radio programming is another example.
We could go on to that, but I mean, there's so much else. In this five-year outlook, we mentioned this figure of about $40 billion in terms of the media market, you know, the size that it will grow to by 2018. Help us get our head around $40 billion. How do you break that down, and how big is that?
It's a big number. So we look at two buckets of money. One is the advertising pool, which is about 40% of that bucket, and the other bucket is entertainment and media products and services that consumers buy. So that covers the gamut from newspaper subscriptions, cinema, to pay TV subscriptions, to things like internet access, games now growing very strongly within that consumer side. So as soon as a consumer puts their hand in their pocket for a discretionary spend on an entertainment or media product, that sits in there as well. And that's actually the bigger piece of the pie now.
So if we keep that simple, call it 40 million, the lion's share, I think, is the entertainment, so the people paying for content. What's driving the increases in that side of it?
Well, there are a couple of sectors that are doing very well. We're forecasting subscription television to do very well over the next 5 years, and part of that is because of IPTV services coming into the market, and they are coming in at a lower price point.
So it won't all be Foxtel money, this will be competitors?
Foxtel
online.
is very well positioned actually in IPTV.
So you think they're not going to be overcome by...
They will not be overcome. My view is they will. You'll be pleased to hear this, I'm sure. No, they will not be overcome, but we will see a much more crowded market, which will force some price pressure. Good for consumers. We'll be paying about $10 a month, probably on average, for an IPTV service, and that anticipates the entry of players like Netflix, obviously. But why I say the incumbents are well positioned is ultimately it's about content and having great content. And so if you've got that and you surround that with technology, then you're sitting pretty.
So if you're thinking about where old media finds itself in terms of where the ad money, I suppose, is going, they still find a place somewhere?
Yes, there'll be some interesting diversification of business models for old media. So those that were ad-funded only, just had that one revenue stream, will look to create some new revenue streams where they can go direct to consumers and extract some of those consumer dollars. So using the powerful brands that they have, using the super fans that they have, monetising those super fans by actually offering them additional products and services. And that might be a pre-broadcast download of the TV show that you actually pay for on a unit-by-unit basis, almost an iTunes model, or it could be a brand extension. We've seen a number of those for years, but events, you know, conferences and concerts and all of these activities where there's strong consumer demand for deeper engagement with brands they love.
Great. So great to have you on the program, Megan. Thank you. It's full of stuff for us. We appreciate it. Thanks. That's Megan Brownlow, the editor of PwC's Australian Entertainment and Media Outlook. So let's get a check now on the media sector's performance on the share market this week. Evan Lucas is with us from IG today. And now, Evan, you've been having a look in particular at Fairfax. You know, we're talking, I guess, new and old media all the time. But Fairfax has made a foray, even just today, into the online space again.
Yeah, it certainly has. And interesting just what Megan was saying with regards to how old media, and Fairfax would be classified as that, are actually trying to diversify their offerings. So new media is online subscription, online areas, and they've obviously picked up this new company called All Homes. They are basically centred around the ACT, offering around about 180 different sort of providers. It also services the regional areas in New South Wales around that area. The interesting question that the market's asking is whether or not the value, which is $50 million, is actually worth it, considering it services around about 700,000 homes, maybe as much as 1 million. It looks slightly expensive. However, the market reaction has been relatively positive. We've seen it gain around about 1 to 1.5% since the deal was done. So that suggested that it's okay, but there will be questions around that sort of expensive side to it. It will go into their domain group. It's a nice little bolt-on from that perspective. But again, the question will be price and whether or not having to get into new media by buying your way in is an optimal way of doing it.
Evan, what else has made headlines for the market, I suppose, this week in the space?
Yeah, look, it's a very interesting sort of time with regards to this time of the year. You always see the Fortune 500 list come out, and it's obviously the first time we've seen News Corp drop out of that list, basically since it was conceived after that split this time last year. The one thing we will say, the sister company, 21st Century Fox, has actually remained in there, and not only that, it's actually moved higher even after splitting out. So the old print media part of News Corp, unfortunately, has dragged it out of that Fortune 500, but for the 21st Century Fox is still gathering momentum. Their revenue was certainly better, and it's why they've moved up on that Fortune 500 list. It'll be interesting to see coming into earnings season how those media players have done. Watching the likes of APN particularly, a lot of people are looking at that media as an upside, considering their radio content is getting stronger and stronger.
Thank you so much, Evan. Great to get your perspective.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks from IG in Melbourne. And coming up on Media Week, we've been hearing about the growing trend of companies creating their own content. So we'll find out whether that's a threat or an opportunity for the production companies out there. Stay with us.